All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So hit a subscribe on the YouTube channel. Hit the bell for notifications of new videos when they're released, and comment down below and upvote the video itself. We'd appreciate it very much. Ole Miss dropped a game against Missouri, kind of a broken record at this point, Tim. And Missouri shot over 50% from three. Matthew Morrell did not play in this game, but somehow Ole Miss was able to score the ball. They had 77 points. But like always, when you look at those little scoring charts that ESPN does, you just always see that straight line for about 5 or 6 minutes in any game. And that, again, was Ole Miss's undoing last night, I think.
Yeah, Morrell was out. He had a hurt knee from the game at Arkansas. I think they said it was a game decision last night, so hopefully he'll play this coming Saturday when they go to Stillwater and play Oklahoma State. But, yeah, several guys stepped up. They knew they had to. Several guys, Ruffin had, I think, 18. Brakefield had 15. Brakefield's been playing really well. And Fagan came in and got 12. So it makes a bit of difference when someone like that's out, so everybody kind of steps up. But they did. They got 77 points, which was plenty enough points to win. But the game plan was an issue. I don't know who he has doing the game plan. I guess he swaps it around with his assistant coaches, and they come in and say this is the best way to win. They were wrong. They were playing defense and letting them have the threes. And the issue is, Stephen, they never stopped the game plan and changed it to stop the three. They were hitting threes one after another. I guess they said, well, maybe they'll stop the second half. They won't hit the threes. Nobody can shoot that good. But from three, they shot 53%, I believe, 16 for 30, which is, rather good. And Ole Miss played, they did pretty good. I think we hit 10 of them, but it was a good night. The rims were nice tonight, but we just couldn't score enough to keep up with their high-pace offense. They have several good kids. That Kobe Brown inside, he always say stuff. He's from around here in Huntsville, right here near me, Huntsville, Alabama. Kobe Brown, him and his brother Caleb, really good players. I think they played at Lee High School here nearby. Really good. He'll be a pro. He'll probably be all SEC. He sees the floor. He shoots the three, hit a couple threes, and then he also dishes off really well for the three. They're a good team. They were coached really well by the Gates guy, but we just didn't come together. I listened to the post game with Kermit. He didn't have a lot of answers. They scored enough, but their defense game plan was not appropriate for Missouri last night because they hit 16 out of 33s.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure. Now, I'm in my mid-40s and everything, and I would put myself as a pretty good basketball player back in the day, but right now I could probably make 50% of my free throws. There's no way that I would probably be above 50% of my free throws at the moment. To see somebody go over 50% from outside the arc, that's insane.
Yeah, it's hard to really know what's going on with Kermit now. I'm not sure. I try to stay on his side. I'm trying to be a team player, but it's really hard. I saw a stat yesterday that Ole Miss Basketball in the Pavilion hasn't won an SEC game for one whole year. It's really hard to understand. And we've talked about this. They have 6 guys that will be leaving after this year. The McKinnis, Burns, Zakuba, Fagan, Allen, and Mbala. And really none of those guys, really score. So if it's Kermit, if he stays, I'm not sure. One other thing, I heard the Keith Carter conversation with Ben Garrett. And he said he likes to wait to the end of the year to do anything. He don't like to do anything during the year unless it's some kind of discipline or some kind of something like that. I understand that. Wait till the end of the year. He does all his coaches like that. So I understand that. Keith has a good point. But what I was saying is, we got these 6 guys that they're all defensive type players, and other poor guys may leave. So who come, they're going to have to come back with some players next year. And I think me and you talked a little bit during the week. We got several guys coming in that could really be good. Josh Hubbard, he's a high-scoring guard who plays with explosiveness and confidence. He's scored over 4,000 points so far in his high school career. He's from Madison, Mississippi. He's a 5'11" guard, number one player in Mississippi. I know I'm a little ahead of that. I got a little ahead there. Hope for the future. Sorry about that. Rashad Marshall, bruising. I read this bruising post player with huge hands and a go-to move over his shoulder. Gritty, tough guy inside. He's 6'9", number one player in Arkansas. So he's done some good recruiting. Another guy, Jordan Burks, he's from here in Decatur, Alabama. He actually moved out to California to academy. Now he's at Hillcrest Prep in Arizona. It kind of makes you wonder about some of these guys that's always moving around, but I won't say no more about that. A lot of upside perimeter skills. He got a smooth stroke. He's 6'9". And then Jacob Gazzo, I don't know if you heard about him. It's interesting. He goes to Briarcrest Christian in Macomb, Mississippi. He was going up for a dunk in a game and fell back on his back, and he was paralyzed for several months. He finally came back, and now he's playing again, but they still got him on scholarship. And per Kermit, on one of his interviews, he said he's doing well. So he's a 6'8" forward. So there's help on the way. I don't know if it'll be for Kermit. I think you got to go out to the portal, and you got to come up with some high-scoring, non-stop score from every area, three-point shooters to win in the SEC.
Well, now that leads an interesting question, because if you're talking about scores, my question is, how do we know these guys with another head coach, if that happens, are not scorers? Because you've got Austin Crowley averaging nearly 18 down at USM. You've got Jarkel Joyner averaging like 17 and a half at NC State. You've got KJ Buffett and Luis Rodriguez both doing really well. They weren't scoring here. They're scoring there. What's the problem? What's the disconnect?
I'm not sure, because they're all, as you just said, they're all doing well. And when they came in, they were automatic scorers. So something between them and Kermit didn't work well. I won't go deep into that because it's none of my business, and I really don't know. I just know we'd have this many guys, and I saw the same list you did. Those guys are doing well where they're at, and they're scoring many points. So it seems like these scorers come in, but whatever happens with Kermit, I know he loves to take them out. I mean, if a defensive snafu, if they do something wrong or don't block out or they let somebody, I understand that issue of for your team, defensive minded, yeah. But if you got a prolific scorer that can score, he can make up for his defensive issues. Like Ruffy, he can. Last night he finally got hot. He had several threes, which was good to see. But I think that may be part of it, because if you always got in the back of your mind, if I make one little error here, I'm gonna get jerked out. If I do this or do that, if I make one bad shot, or if I do one shot, if I make one shot that Kermit's not don't like, or we don't pass it enough, and that could be an issue. I don't know, but evidently something has happened. Like Jarker Joyner, I was saying he should be the mayor of Oxford. Great kid. I met him at an alumni meeting, and I'm not sure what happened. It's not good that these kids are going off and scoring all these great points and leading their teams in offense. And we stuck here with Matthew Morrell averaging 14, and no one else is averaging over 10 points a game. And Morrell was out. And so it is what it is. As you say, right now we got to just play this game out and see what happens at the end of the year.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. With Oklahoma State coming up on Saturday, you know anything about the Cowboys?
Not really. I just know they're in the Big 12. I should have looked more about that, but I didn't. But I know they'll be good. They play there with Texas and Oklahoma's, and if they play with those guys, we got beat by Oklahoma in that one tournament. So I know they'll be good. I'm not sure, but if we get Morrell back and get some semblance of confidence, and we can get everybody playing together, and maybe they'll start fighting for Kermit if there is such a thing. If they want to fight for their coach, because it's getting apparent. It's starting to get on the talk shows and social media about Kermit's job, and it's definitely something that they're aware of. And some of these guys are looking to go somewhere else. I mean, you just go ahead and put it out there. Someone may have more NIL money for Ruffin or for one of these other guys. So that's out there too. So it's going to be a strange inning of this year. some people like you, Stephen, probably ready for it to be over with and bring on baseball. I love basketball, but it's hard for me to watch. It's hard for me to see this team continuously. They have spurts of good play. They have spurts of playing well, and the guys inside slap a ball the well, and they dunk. Miles Burns has some great, wonderful dunks. Here lately, he's had some that's just unbelievable ESPN type dunks. But after they dunk, they get down on the end of the court and they do their muscles and whatever, and they spend half the time, celebrating and proud of themselves. And then the other team's already hit 2 threes before they get to celebrate. So there's an issue with me. I don't like all that. You got to play like you've done it before. You can't be celebrating every little three you hit or every dunk you make that it's the first one you've ever done. But that's my point of view.
All right, moving forward, the immediate future, what does Ole Miss need to do just to kind of start to turn this around?
Morrell has to come back. Ruffin has to be shooting well. They have, for them to win any at all the rest of the year. Really maybe half the games if they're lucky, and the ones at home are the only ones that are going to be able to win. If they're playing like they are now, that's going to be really hard to win away from home. It is what it is. But maybe win a few at home and maybe surprise somebody on that Tuesday. They're definitely going to play on Tuesday unless something happens really quick. And that's a hard road to hoe there when you play on Tuesday. You got to play 4 games to win the whole thing to be able to go to NCAA. And that's what Keith Carter said. If you don't go to the NCAA tournament, you're not going to make it. So Kermit's got that looking at him straight in the face, and it's going to be hard for him to do.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. It has everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Plus, hear from big-name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We'll check back in next week. Hopefully this basketball team can turn it around a little bit. But if not, we will still have plenty of stuff to talk about, man.
Yeah, I would hope so. I'm looking forward to them going to OK State and maybe, upsetting them. And maybe they'll take us lightly. They look at our record, maybe we'll upset them and come home. And, if we could get Kentucky, a lot of people forget about some of the other losses. If you could beat Kentucky at home, I think we'll have a good crowd regardless, because a lot of people like to watch Kentucky. So if we can get a win there, I'm trying to be optimistic, Stephen, trying to be optimistic. But if we don't, it's going into the cellar. And I wish Kermit well. We'll see what happens.
All right, bud. See you next week, man.
God bless. See you.